Have to paint with this in place. Boy, is that going to be a pain. But I don't want to just... Today's one of those unpredictable days, as every day has been for the last 74 years. I originally, last night, watched the weather, and they said it was going to be bright and sunny and maybe 40 degrees. Well, this morning it was more like below freezing, and due to get a lot colder in the next couple days, including some snow. So that's gonna screw the pooch here pretty good. So what I want to do today is, as soon as possible, I made a plan. Thomas Luciano is going to try to come down with his wheel in the next couple of days. I thought a perfect thing would be just to get the back wheel off the motorcycle, since it's so cold out here. We're not buying anything by doing any other work. Get the parts clean, get that part of it done, and get that back wheel down the cellar as soon as possible, so we can start working on it and turn it into a piece of jewelry. And the whole idea of this whole operation today is to get in out of the cold garage, as you can imagine. As you can imagine. Now, there's plenty of these parts that they have to be cleaned, and I'm going to bring in I guess some of the diesel fuel to do some of the cleanup. It's always a big job. I have a little container that I want to put all this stuff in. I want to clean all the hardware up, polish as much as possible, clean the sprocket, clean everything up, get rid of the tire. We're going to try to go through the whole procedure here, and of course try to share it on video. People that have this same passion we have to try to turn 11-year-old motorcycles into better than new. So removing the back wheel off the bike, we've done this many times. It's not a big deal. It's not difficult to do, but what I want to be careful to do, I want to get all the hardware into one bucket. And as I said before, I really want to make sure that under controlled conditions of being warm in the cellar, I'll get everything polished up before we put it back. I always look forward to polishing up hardware. I don't know why. There's something about it. I'm never sure why. Oh, we don't even need a zip tie to get that out of the way. Okay, so I guess we're ready to pull the axle and undo this thing. The part, while I got this all apart, is very easy to clean in here now. I'll throw some simple green on this, get a couple of throwaway rags, and some of it's going to have to be cleaned with diesel fuel. I can see that already. Some of it is really gringy, but it's an 11-year-old motorcycle, and old stuff gets old. That's the problem. And boy, I hear the wind howling out there. That storm is coming. They predicted a storm, and I know it's coming. And I'm hoping, because Thomas can only make it up here if we don't have big snow. So we're going to see. Everything's unpredictable. And to be honest, I like it that way. To be totally candid, my worst nightmare would be to have a day that every day is just like the day before. Just like that movie Groundhog Day. Anyway, I want to get this cleaned up. As I'm deconstructing this, I want to clean as much as I can. And we will, before we even start putting it back together, do a thorough cleaning. I'm taking some chain oil, chain wax, whatever the hell you want to call it. And what I want to do is get a good coat on the whole chain. Yeah, because what's going to happen, we're basically putting this away for a while. And then I'll wipe it down with a rag. This I hope will keep it from rusting. Especially if we get big snowstorms, we can get a lot of moisture in the air for a month at a time. Cheap insurance. When we come ready to assemble a bike, I'll take the diesel fuel and clean the chain. But this is just to protect it over the winter. That's all I'm looking to do, is just let it not get too rusted. And we want to get most of the heavy grit off before I bring the parts down the cellar. That's the whole objective here. Anyway, that looks like it'll help it over the winter a little bit. Again, chains are expensive, so, and this is a relatively new one, so I don't want to waste it. And this also gave me a chance to check for any bad links or frozen links on the chain. But that chain is pretty well preserved now, assuming we're going to be 2 or 3 months before we put everything back together. We have the steam cleaner fired up. We'll bring it out here, put some rags underneath here to protect our beautiful rugs, and do a final cleanup in there. And then of course a final cleanup before we assemble the motorcycle in the spring. You know, this is where having these turkey pans is handy, but I would always have a nice rag underneath it, just in case it leaks, it doesn't leak all over the bench. Now, because we use chain wax, where's my... I always got to get this. I want to scrape, and watch how this comes off. Good old chain wax. If you use oil-based stuff, it doesn't come off this way, but I'll be real careful, get the heavy stuff off. That's ordinary diesel fuel, and I don't like to do this in the house because basically Karen will kill me. And murdering the husband is not high on my list. Now these rear sprockets, I have them I think on most of the bikes, if not all. They're called Sprox, S-P-R-O-X-X, and they are super nice. They're steel on the outside, aluminum on the inside. So what happens is they wear real good, and they look real good. Well, that's a good combo. It sounds like me. He's worn out, and he doesn't look that good anymore. What a combo. But anyway, using a razor blade to get the heavy stuff off. And it gives the diesel fuel a little bit of time to penetrate and get cleaned up. Now, I'm a big believer, and it's not like I'm a rocket scientist or anything to figure this out. When I take a motorcycle apart for any reason, I like to, while I have it apart, clean it up. And I've seen guys, not mention any names, they're all done and they put the bike back together just with the grit on it and the dirt and dead bugs, and I don't know, I guess I just don't do that. I'm just an old lady or something. But to be honest, I like to be an old lady. I like to have nice clean stuff. And I don't want to have that, these rear sprockets were like 80 bucks when I bought them. But I'd like to keep them looking nice. And this, by the way, is a good use for old microfibers, because once you get diesel fuel on a microfiber, don't even think about putting it in with the regular microfibers in the laundry, or your washing machine will smell like diesel fuel. That's a good tip, by the way. Anyway, we're going to finish cleaning this up. Another good tip, trying to include tips, we got these little brushes from Harbor Freight to get around the bolts. Obviously, at some point in time, we're going to remove the sprocket and polish the nuts on the heavy buffing wheel. All of the hardware will get thoroughly polished, because the goal of our restoration is when we put it back together, that it's not like a new bike, it's better than a new bike. There's no factory bike I know that has the quality of finish that, and I don't care how much you pay for it. It just isn't happening. You can look around all you want. I guess there are some exceptions to that, but I know Joe Roselli's bike had a really nice paint job on it, among others. But again, these are expensive machines. These are not. You can't get these for $300-400 in Patterson. Not really. You can't ask Luciano, look, I got a budget of $300. I want a nice Ninja, a nice clean one. Anyway, we're going to work on that. We'll clean it up some more, some compressed air, but I don't want to bring it in the house while it smells like diesel fuel. No, I didn't want to forget to mention, these bottles are available anywhere, any place they sell beauty supplies, and they're great for spraying. I always keep a 5 gallons of diesel fuel right where I keep the lawnmower and snowblower stuff. But here's the other little thing that makes it handy. I don't want to have a 5-gallon thing in the garage because it really does stink. I keep a little bit in a jar, just keep the jar kind of clean, and then I don't have to run out and move everything out in the garage when it's time to... Anyway, this stuff, if you let it soak, Diesel fuel is a wonderful thing. If you let it soak, it's just great. Now, after a lot of time, that was a good 45 minutes of cleaning that part. But boy, what a difference it makes. Now, as a final thing, anything that doesn't come off, I have a really good tip. I always use brake parts cleaner, but I don't like to spray the whole part with that because it tends to hurt the paint. But in this case, it won't matter since we're more than likely going to paint that black carrier at some point in time, just like we did on the Ninja. Now I've got a bucket here for anything that belongs on the rear wheel, and you can see how some of this stuff really does need a lot of polishing, cleaning. But before I bring it downstairs, I want to get all of the heavy stuff off. And boy, we really have a storm brewing out there. I don't know if you can hear the wind howling, but wow, is it howling. Anyway, I'm going through these parts one by one. They're ready to, this will be a box of stuff that needs to be polished. Some of it worse than others, but obviously before we put anything together, these parts we've already polished, but they're going to need a refresh. And there's so many parts of this bike that they came from the factory unpolished, and it kind of looked, I don't know, it didn't look like the way I want it to look anyway. But once we're done with them, I'm sure we'll be adding to the mystique. This one I don't even have to take apart till I get downstairs. See, I'm just looking to get out of this cold. And have a nice cup of mocha java. Oh my God. These be ready to polish. We got all the rubber things. They'll be ready. We got this bracket. We may paint this bracket just like I did on the green Ninja. So anything I can get cleaned off out here, it's really to my advantage. And see, once I'm done with these rags, everything will go right out. They won't even stay in the garage. I take them outside into the trash pail outside. Let the squirrels smell them. Because I know I've had diesel fuel to drip or drool or whatever and get on the rugs, and God, it never goes away. Anyway, there's a lot of little parts left to do. These will be easy to clean once I get them out greasy. But anyway, and the biggest thing, we'll take care of the axle. These are all parts very easy to work on when a bike is apart. But I know some people would just put the bike back together. And what can I say? Now I usually keep all my stuff, all the things that I would use to change a tire, in one bucket. And that makes it very easy when I have to go down a cellar or out here. I know I have everything I need to change tires right there. And in the past, one of the things that's been a real problem, and I'm anticipating this won't be any different, when you have a 10 or a 12-year-old motorcycle, that these are usually red Loctited at the factory. You almost always have to beat them to death or heat them or something. And when I replace it, of course, I'll use blue Loctite, not red Loctite. And I check this stuff often enough, that's never going to get loose. But that has been a problem, and in some cases I've had to replace the bolts. Well, let's see if it's, you never know if it's your lucky day. Anything with these old motorcycles. So I was right. These are not budging at all, even with an impact driver. So, boy, this is really going to be a pain. Well, I guess the next choice is to heat the bolts. I go through my sequence of things, but it's very, very difficult to paint the wheel with that in place. But if all else fails, that's going to be the choice. I really hate to not be able to get that off, though. But in the past, I have had. On the R1, the bolts were unbelievable to try to get them off. I know the factory's trying to cover their ass, but boy, the day you wanted, suppose you wanted to change that disc, wow, it's a problem. It's a real problem. Anyway, even with an impact driver, it won't budge them at all. Now, I'm not so sure this is going to work, but we tried the impact driver, and I'm already starting to think we may have to paint with this in place. Boy, is that going to be a pain. But I don't want to destroy the wheel either, that's for sure. So I'm dying to see if this heat made any difference. I want to make sure that wrench is in as far as it'll go. I don't want that wrench moving. Oh my God. Oh my God, we got one loose. It looks like the heat did the trick. Oh my God, is that thing in there tight. Holy moly, baby. Holy mackerel. Okay, so the heat seemed to work. This is the kind of stuff we're trying to pass on our videos, because everybody, if I had this problem, guess what? You're probably going to have it too. Old motorcycles, rusty bolts, impact drivers, heat, WD. I don't put WD-40 on it because what's going to happen when I put the heat? It's going to catch fire. It's going to be a pain. We actually can rename this video, instead of renaming it Restoring Motorcycles, How to Get Out Frozen. It's red Loctite. There's enough red Loctite on this to make a pizza pie. Kawasaki, shame on you. Anyway, the heat did seem to loosen it. Famous last one. Look at all the red Loctite on that. Holy mackerel. We will wire brush that off. That's for sure. And now we got 3 bolts to go, so I don't want to be like the captain of the Titanic and celebrate that I'm 10 miles out of port. Now another tip, the worst thing that can happen is when you put this into something that's frozen or red Loctited, what the real issue you have is the wrench wants to strip the bolt. Well, this isn't the case. This bolt, it was such a nice tight fit. I guess the impact driver boogered it up a little bit. I've got to go down to a vise and put this bolt in a vise and hammer this wrench out. I've tried pulling it out with pliers. It's amazing. Amazing how hard that was to get out. But it looks like heat was the answer. If I can get 3 more of them out, we'll celebrate with a cup of coffee. And sometimes the smallest little thing like this today can ruin your whole day, or not ruin your whole... Oh, hey, we got it out. Okay, so maybe now another trick. If these ends start getting rounded off, you can go to a grindstone and grind on so you have some fresh material, so you don't booger that bolt up. That's the main thing, is not to booger that bolt up. To get a very tight fit. The looser that fit is, the more chance it is you're never going to get it out. That's going to just strip. And the other thing, when we redo these bolts and polish them, we'll definitely wire brush off every bit of that red Loctite and try to get what's still in the threads out. I don't want to have to go through this again. If I live another 11 years, who knows? Now we're going to repeat the same thing and see if it's our lucky day. You never know. Oh, this one isn't quite as tight as the other one, but I feel confident in thinking that in dealing with red Loctite that MAP gas made the difference. Oh my God, these bolts are in there. Holy shit. If you had to replace this rear disc, what a job. But it's a critical thing to keep the fit between that wrench and the bolt as tight as possible. So 2 down. 2 down. Look at all this red Loctite. Oh my God, unbelievable. The hottest part of a flame is right at the end of the tip of the blue. Not sure that makes any difference here. Oh my God, what a job. I'm ready for a shower, not a cup of coffee. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm sure people that know how to do this, professionals, they would not be impressed with how I'm doing this, but it's too bad. This is gonna, if I get this disc off, it makes doing the wheel so much nicer. Not only nicer, easier, all at the same time. And I've been holding the tip on here for about, I don't know, I'm counting to, I guess, a minute. Maybe you don't have to do it that long, I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. Since this is good information to pass on, I can't imagine that this is not good information. Now what I always try to do is get the wrench. Oh, come on baby, you can do it. I'm sure that tapping on a bolt helps too, somewhat. Oh my God.
Son of a gun. Oh, there we go. Who said? I wanted that one in real time. One to go. Time to cross the Atlantic in the Titanic. I don't see any icebergs. I don't see any gefilte fish. Boy, am I going to be happy when that last bolt is out. You can't explain to somebody that doesn't have this problem how it feels to get that last bolt out. All right, this is the fourth one, and by the time you get that you can move it a little bit, you know you're across the Atlantic and the iceberg is behind you. So I really feel like I didn't start off this day. I knew this was going to happen. And it's going to happen to the front too, so at least we've learned something. I hope we've been able to pass this on. Hey, and especially with other people wanting to paint wheels. Oh, look at that red Loctite. Oh my God. Now, that's going to be red hot. Oh, red hot, baby. Red hot. Oh, I hate to say that, but red hot. Red hot. Nothing the big wooden hammer won't take care of. Oh, that just made the wheel job a ton easier and a ton nicer. Wow, am I happy. Time to celebrate with a cup of coffee. When you can't get a bolt out, trust me, this is the only material that gets out red Loctited bolts. Holy mackerel, do I need a cup of coffee. That garage is like an icebox this morning. Well, with that disc removed, that was one of the best cups of coffee I've ever had. And every one of these bikes I've had a similar issue with. And I'm sure they all do the same thing. They red Loctite those bolts in. And this one was a bear to get off, but if you try to paint a wheel with that disc in place, you really compromise it. So it is truly my lucky day. The next thing is, we're not trying to save this tire. This tire is gone. We're going to replace it with a new tire, of course. But it's time. I want to let the air out. Use our Harbor Freight speed breaker. A really inexpensive way to do it. And the thing we have, and thank you Pokey, years ago Pokey gave me that wheel balancer. I have used it to paint a lot of wheels. Let's leave it at that. I don't want to lose the little valve. I don't want it to blow out. And these are the little tool that we always use to take the valve out, valve stem. Boy, after that ordeal, the rest of this is a piece of cake. Now, just a couple of things. This is the Harbor Freight bead breaker. It works just fine. I used an old fork leg that Chuck gave me from a dirt bike just to give me a little more leverage. And usually if I'm doing painted wheels, but I'll do this just for practice, I put a towel on that. I also put a lot of duct tape around, Gorilla Tape, just to minimize the chance I'm going to scratch the wheels. And there's no reason to scratch it even though we're going to paint it. When the tire's warm, it's a lot easier. It's freezing cold. Now, I forgot to mention, I spray a little, you see the rim is wet, a little bit of Simple Green, any kind of soapy water, just to make taking it off a little bit easier. And by the way, these guys, they're Motion Pro, I think. Motion Pro. These guys really have worked well. I've done a lot of tires with them. They're super, super nice. So I put Simple Green on this. I just want to wipe it all off before I bring this down in the cellar. I am so cold out here. I gotta go riding to warm up. And that storm looks like it's coming in with a vengeance. The wind is howling. Actually, Karen called me in and told me take the bird feeder down. The bird feeder was banging on a window. But we have, this was the mission of the day, was to get this ready. And if Thomas manages to make it in the next couple days, we can work on his wheel a little bit. We do have some information to share, and I'm always happy if I can share it. But I'm amazed. Getting those bolts out really made my day complete. You can't imagine. And if you don't do the kind of work where you can be, your whole day can be ruined by one bolt. I remember Luciano calling me up. He had a steering dampener bolt on his Ducati. I don't remember which one. I think it was the yellow one. We couldn't get that bolt out to save our life. I had to grind a notch in it and basically make a tool to get it out. But we got it out. It's out. So we're basically setting up a part of the shop that we always do when it's time to change wheels and tires and all our tire changing stuff. It's very handy to have it all in one box. It's very handy to have, as an example, all of the parts that go to the rear wheel in one part. That'll make it a little bit easier. And it's just, when I come down to the shop, it almost makes me feel like I'm organized. But this project now is in its third month. We are a couple days into the third month, according to my accurate record keeping. And some of the things that have really exceeded my wildest opinion, I really wanted that dashboard to be beautiful. I wanted the gold paint to be exactly what I wanted. I've got all of the parts that were flat black, now shiny black. And Thomas Luciano is going to try to help us with that big Kawasaki on the tank. And little by little by little, the wheels and tires, I've done so many of them, I know they're basically just a redundant thing. And this is the part. Well, I'm sitting here having another cup of coffee because I want to try to clean that wheel up. Boy, oh boy, that makes it all worthwhile when you can just stand back and see the labor of your love. Now, some of the wheels, and I remember the Kawasaki was one of them, they really, you had to have a very thin wall wrench to get in there, and I noticed where I thought I had the thin wall wrench, I don't. So I'm going to have to grind the lip of this just a little bit. I really don't want to try to compromise that. And yeah, that's just one of the quirks of this Kawasaki wheel. Now these Curvy Girl, the valves, I try not to over tighten them, and never put Loctite on them of any kind. Once you put that, you're dead. All right, so it looks like our tool is working. Boy, that is a nice tight fit, I have to admit. And these Curvy Girls have worked great. And it's ironic, they're already gold. They're going to be gold on a gold wheel. So let me share some really useful information. I think this is really, this is right at the top of useful information. If you are going to paint a wheel, and you are going to try to do it without a wheel balancer or a way of holding the wheel so you can spin it, well, you're going to make it more difficult than it has to be. This was donated to me again by Pokey, and again, thank you. He's been very helpful in other projects of getting me stuff, and I always want to give him the credit he's due. Without a wheel balancer, it's very difficult to do a lot of the work on a wheel. This is a great investment if you're going to do wheels. Now, with the wheel mounted in the balancer, the first thing we always have to do, it's whenever anything is going to be painted, and before you ever put sandpaper on it, I always repeat these, I call them the rules of engagement. This is simple green, ordinary simple green. We will do as much of this as we can, get in every nook and cranny, and then we will take the steam cleaner and try to do a final cleanup on it, get the last little bit of soap and grease and everything out of here before we ever touch this with sandpaper. Now, the big mistake would always be to start grinding on it. Now, there's going to be a lot of sanding and grinding here. So, and I just see something right now before I forget it. I want to take the wheel balancer off. We don't need that. So I want to get, obviously, we'll rebalance the wheel when we're done. And because we're using Michelin tires, it'll probably be pretty close Lucky for us. But anyway, that is always step one. Spend an extra 15-20 minutes even in here, and I always like to let the simple green sit for a minute or two. But when I'm done with the simple green, what happens with the steam takes off any residue of the simple green. And this part, of course, what happened when I was removing the tire, I always put a little simple green around the bead. It just makes it a little bit easier. And as I get older, I need things easy. I need power steering. I need something. I don't know what I need. I need the fountain of youth. But anyway, you can't imagine that those bolts that they use, that they Loctite on, and I understand why they do it, because the average person doesn't check anything. They just turn the key and go out. But blows me away. It absolutely blows me away how hard it is to get this. The one on the R1 was, it was just unbelievable. But maybe we'll make it a little bit easier with that heat. And by the way, just for general information that I know, MAP gas is a lot hotter than propane, so if you buy a torch, buy a MAP gas torch. And it's always the tip of the blue flame, where the flame ends blue, that, as far as my knowledge from when I used to weld when I was a 20-year-old kid installing iron railings, that was always the way we thought about it. And anyway, I try to keep my wheel balancer clean because we're going to use that wheel balancer for painting also. Now, this is an under $100 tool I have from Harbor Freight, the steam cleaner. We use it around the house to clean car wheels and whatever. It also has this little accessory that at the end of steam cleaning, I'll run this wire brush with steam to get anything that the ordinary brush is just like a toothbrush. It loosens stuff up. I want to flush all that stuff away before I hit it with a copper brush, because I don't want to embed any of the grease or oil or dirt. But having that up on the rack today, I had no idea if we were going to do that. When I saw how those bolts were frozen in there, oh man. Now the wire brush seems to get down in, I'm going to try to show this, down in all these little nooks and crannies, all the little grooves, because if there's going to be some oil or grease, it's going to be down in those grooves. That's where it's going to be. Now you can't imagine how much grit and grease gets loosened up by that steam. It just, I know people, look at what's in there. And what happens, the steam, when you think you have something clean, and then you steam clean it, you look at the, just as an example, that last little bit, it digs down into these little nooks and crannies. And I don't care, now I'll do most of this off camera because I want this to be perfectly clean before I hit it with any abrasive, any sandpaper, anything. And I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that. I'm going to think about it tonight. But I know one thing. I got a big, look at the stuff that comes off of this wheel. Woo! If you were to paint over this, you're just wasting your time. It's going to be bubble, it's going to peel, it's going to fall off, whatever. But I know by taking our time, and I really will take my time. I don't let the camera run, but I'll spend hours doing things that I want it to be perfect. And having those really beautiful set of wheels on the R1, to me, that makes the motorcycle. Change the whole look of the motorcycle. The FZR, if I didn't have those hand buffed out wheels, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I know the more of this stuff I can get off, the better I am. The next step after we're done with that, I want to get, and I'm trying to use paper towels, not rags, so I don't contaminate anything. Because as soon as I start grinding on this, any silicone, any wax, anything, and these wheels have been waxed, I need to get in every one of these little grooves and every one of these little nooks and crannies. And I will take my time doing this because in the final product, this wheel will be one of the focal points, and especially because it'll be gold. And almost all the sanding, I think, is going to have to be done by hand. So I'm going to have invested in this an awful lot of time and an awful lot of effort and energy. But, and you can see, even after all that, there's still, see, I'm going to do this until the paper towels come out clean. And that's the test. So well, here's what I'm saying is when I go through this, I don't want to grab any of this residual grease and get it caught in some 600 sandpaper or something and grind it into the paint. And then somewhere down the road, they'll be sitting up on Bear Mountain and looking at the bike and there'll be a bubble somewhere. So I'm getting rid of that one. Get a brand new paper towel. Well, this is the whole thing. You got to go through a roll of paper towels to do this, but if you do it over and over again, here's what happens. At some point in time, the towels come out clean. And then you know you got a good chance, and especially along here. This is where the paint really needs to stick more than anything else because you have a reverse curve here, and that's an issue. You really want to get that etched before we do anything. And getting all this residual gobbledygook off of it. This just, and you can see, even though as much as we've cleaned it, so imagine if right now we just took sandpaper and went, we just grind it right in. And that's why some people have put an awful lot of time and energy into a wheel. At the end, once you see that bubble, or that piece of paint chips and falls off, or all we really can do is stack the deck in our favor. And I know most of the, not most, I think all of the wheels we've done have held up pretty well over 5, 6, 10 years. Here's a little tip that's really worth its weight in gold. This is a cap that has some prep oil in it. And actually it was Bobby Brookins, who has a custom car shop, that years ago convinced me, and we were talking about tricks of the master painters, and one of the things was you never sand anything until it's perfectly clean. And that has been that's probably 15 years already I've been doing this with Bobby's advice, and at the time it didn't make sense to me. It makes sense to me now because the success of all these projects and the thought of putting all this time into a project, because you really do have your heart and soul in this. There's just no cheap way about it. But this is an ordinary flux brush. You could put some tape on the end. I didn't even bother because this is going to be pretty cut and dry. But now, all that stuff is floating out. And if you're really fanatical about it, right now you could take some compressed air and get in there because the residue is floating in that material. Now I'll sleep really great tonight knowing that this wheel is about as clean as I can make it. Tomorrow we start grinding and polishing and sanding, and I don't know what. I've noticed this is a very, there's some spots on here where and I know it's how they do these castings. I'm going to really have to do a lot of hand sanding. But the main thing is I don't have any grease or any silicone, any oil, any chain lube that's going to, well, hopefully I don't. But I used up a whole roll of paper towels, and at the end they were coming out pretty clean. But, well, again, we're going to find out. We're going to find out the easy way or the hard way. Now, I know I'm not sure exactly if this is paint or powder coating. It won't matter. It's still got to be sanded, and it's still got to be perfectly smooth before we put even the first coat of primer on. But anyway, that was quite a job today, and I hope that information about getting out these bolts, because anytime you do a wheel, if you got to paint it with the discs on, it's a nightmare. It's so much easier with the discs off, and I was very impressed how that MAP gas worked on his wheel. To be honest, I didn't know how that was going to work. That's the first time I've actually had to resort to MAP gas. But anyway, it's all an adventure, and it's an adventure we share on a video. So again, thanks for watching.